Today is from Luke, the 21st chapter, starting with verse 5 and going to verse 19, words of Jesus. When some were speaking about the temple, how it was adorned with beautiful stones and gifts dedicated to God, he said, "As for these things that you see, the day will come when not one stone will be left upon another. All will be thrown down." They asked him, "Teacher, when will this be? What will be the sign that this is about to take place?" He said, "Beware that you are not led astray. For many will come in my name and say, 'I am he. The time is near.' Do not go after them. When you hear of wars and insurrections, do not be terrified. These things must take place first, but the end will not follow immediately." And then he said to them, "Nations will rise against nations and kingdoms against kingdoms. There will be great earthquakes, and in various places famine and plagues. There will be dreadful portents and great signs from heaven. But before all this occurs, they will arrest you and persecute you. They will hand you over to synagogues and prisons, and you will be brought before kings and governors because of my name. This will give you an opportunity to testify. So make up your minds not to prepare your defense in advance, for I will give you the words of wisdom that none of your opponents will be able to withstand or contradict. You will be betrayed even by parents and brothers and relatives and friends, and they'll put some of you to death. You'll be hated by all because of my name, but not a hair on your head will perish. By your endurance, you will gain your souls." It's the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
So the other day while I was doing a little bit of channel surfing, I'm sure some of you do that, I ran across a movie called The Hunger Games. Now, you might be one of the few people in this world that never heard of The Hunger Games. But in a nutshell, this is this. It's a story about a time when, we'll say, post-apocalyptic North America, that the corrupt government divides the lands up into 12 districts. And they divide food up according to what district you're in. And if your district wins the yearly Hunger Games. And what they do is they choose 2 people, a boy and a girl, from each district, and they bring them to the capital, and they adorn them, and they lavish them, and they train them, and then they turn them loose to try to kill each other. So that at the end, the winner gets the food for their district. They become a hero, and they're held up, and all this kind of stuff. It's a weird story. But a lot of people enjoy it. And the heroine of the movie, though, is a girl named Katniss. And in the movie, she's played by Jennifer Lawrence. And the sales of that film and the books surpassed Harry Potter. And that was a surprise when I read that. The whole concept is, how does this young girl navigate this apocalyptic time? Now, that's not the only book out there about apocalyptic end times, eschatology, all that fancy word stuff. How many of you may have read the Left Behind series? Right? Oh, I got to read the Left Behind series. Right? In today's text, we have Jesus warning his disciples of a time to come when the world was going to catch fire with war and upheaval, when people were going to say, this is it. The end is near. This got to be it. And in this picture that Jesus is painting, there's natural disasters. There's humans terrorizing each other. And even a belief that God is under attack. And yet Jesus says, such days will come. These days will come. And indeed, they have. When Jesus was speaking, his words were looking forward to two things that were going to happen. One happened, he says it's not going to happen immediately, but it's going to happen soon. And did happen soon. Within 40 years of Jesus saying that not one stone would be left upon another, the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed. Within 40 years, the Romans came in and they burned it and they stripped it and they knocked down everything but the one wall that still remains, the Wailing Wall that Jews go to worship at today and pray. That's all. All the adorned, there's a carving in Rome of the plunder of the temple, where they're carrying off the menorahs and the lampstands and the plates and all that, and just carrying it away while the temple burns. I want you to think about what a first century Jew, what that would have meant to them. Your temple burned to the ground, destroyed. This place that Herod had built, this place of adoration and worship, this is where God resided. And it's gone. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and all of a sudden the Capitol is gone. Just gone. Devastating, world-shaking, world-ending for the Jews. But also in Jesus' mind, it was an era that we find ourselves in today. We live in an age, although we belong to God, we find ourselves in a world that's groaning, awaiting the end, the return of Jesus. And so we wait in the midst of hurricane after hurricane in the Gulf. We wait in the midst of fires raging across the West. We wait in times when government coups are taking place and governments are being overturned. We wait in a period where there's terrorist attacks. We wait in a period where there's school shootings. Again, school shootings. We wait in a time of impeachment hearings. We live in a time when the Methodist Church is threatening to be divided into sections. We have a lot in common with Katniss of the Hunger Games. How are we, if we're followers of Jesus Christ, how are we supposed to navigate such a landscape? How are we to live in a world that has just seemed to gone crazy? When I do funerals, one of the things I like to tell the families is that you're going to be facing grief. And grief comes at you it's just not lingering over you all the time. If that's happening, then you need to see a specialist and get some help. But it comes at you in waves. That's how grief comes. And I tell them the story of Jesus sleeping in the boat, and a storm hits the little boat with his disciples, and the disciples wake him up and they say, Jesus, don't you care that we're about to perish? And Jesus comes up and he stands on the ship and says, be still. and the waves calm. I like to remind people that Jesus' words still calm our storms. They still calm our storms. So, let's look to the words of Jesus. As soon as he gives this message of dire but dead-on description of a life in a world that is just going to be crazy, Jesus instructs not to live in a state of fear. Don't be afraid. Jesus doesn't say the end is near, grab a shovel, build a bunker in your backyard. Jesus doesn't say the end is near, load up on your ammo. Stock your guns. Jesus is telling them, get your heart right. Get your mind right. Get your spirit right. Get your soul right with God. That's what we need to be doing now. He paints this picture in broad strokes of the end coming, but he tells the people to live in readiness and awareness. Folks, it's a common human nature to live in denial. To look at a newspaper, to look at your phone and look at the headlines and say, that ain't going to happen here. Well, that's what those folks in California were saying about school shootings. Guess what? Showed up. Showed up. Tragedy and evil and persecution can happen right here and now. That is why it is so important. Know your history or you will end up repeating it someday. Learn from it. Jesus asked people, be honest, realize this world is groaning and churning under the weight of sin and despair. But those groans are only going to get louder. They're only going to get louder until Jesus comes and quiets them back down. We're all headed to this place. Jesus is coming. Don't let somebody come along saying, I've got the answers. I'm the person that you need to look at. I'm going to solve all the world's problems. Don't let them pull the rug out from under you. The only one that's ever going to solve the world's problem is Jesus. Amen. It's Jesus. And this memo you may have missed. Jesus is not, with his words, giving us permission to spend our days just wringing our hands, wondering when the next apocalyptic shoe is going to drop. If anything, he's telling us the opposite. In verse 14, he says, settle it therefore in your mind not to meditate before how to answer. When trouble arrives, he says, live with your eyes wide open and your hearts at peace, confident God is going to give you what you need to tackle whatever is coming your way. God will provide you the words. God will provide you the strength when trouble knocks at your door. In the Hunger Games series, what we learned about this girl Katniss is that she takes this time of trouble, takes this time of fear and hardship, and makes it a platform to witness. Katniss transforms from being an awkward girl with some hunting abilities into this woman of skill and character so she could bless and oppress people. And the same is true when we follow Jesus. Jesus is going to challenge us that in struggles in this broken world, these are our platforms where we have the opportunity to bear witness to our faith. I have seen people who are dying of a disease, of cancer, and in their last times bear witness in such a way that I walk away feeling blessed blessed just to be in their presence. They use those challenges to lift up their faith and to lift others up in faith. How can we navigate in a world on fire without being singed? The thing is, we're going to be able to show those who are without hope a reason to hope. Those without hope can have a reason to hope as they face the trials of this world. How can we, when we're going through a challenge, when we're going through an illness, when we're going through a brokenness, go to a co-worker and bear our faith, tell our child to be faithful, to talk to a friend, to talk to a family member and say, be lifted up because Jesus is in my life and working out for me, to have a faith-filled, God-glorifying way to show people I'm in this fight and God is with me in it. Finally, Jesus is urging us to live with a constant focus on how the story ends. You start getting worked up, you start feeling challenged, you start thinking, oh no, this is too much. Go to the end of the book. Go to the end of the book. You know, when you're looking, when I was reading the Hunger Games, it's in 3 parts. There's the Hunger Games, and then there's Catching Fire and Mockingjay. Folks, I think we're in you get those trilogy books, I think we're in the middle book. Now, we might be at the beginning of the last book, okay? But the great thing is, if you go to that last chapter, you see how it all ends up. So that way you can read the rest of the book and not have to worry what happens to Katniss. Okay? You can read this book and not have to worry what happens to you. Because Jesus already wrote the ending of the story for us. He already wrote the ending. Keep turning the pages. Keep reading the book. Keep getting involved in it. Keep walking in it. But folks, flip to the end and you get God's promise in the Word that God's proof is in our history. God's proof is in an empty tomb. And that should slow our hearts and help us recalibrate where we're at in our walk. We need to know that no matter what tomorrow brings, that God has a plan for us that lasts beyond this life and into the next. We weren't promised today. We're not promised tomorrow. We're promised this moment to make a commitment to Jesus Christ here and now. And be assured that no matter what happens tomorrow, we are with Christ. We are with Christ. We're coming to the end of our regular season of Colors of Green. We got one more Sunday with that. And we're all going to be all ready for the purple or blue celebration of Advent and looking forward to Christmas. But don't miss this message. That child that's going to be born in Bethlehem was born for the end story. Everything that happens in the shadow of the cross. There's a message of resurrection and hope for every single one who will just believe in Him. Just believe in Him. Be ready and aware, but not obsessed and afraid. Use your time of trouble as a platform for your witness. Keep your hearts tied to the promise of tomorrow so that we are not overwhelmed with the temporary trouble of today. That's how we do. That's how we do. And in the words of REM, it's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. But I feel fine. I got Jesus. Amen. Now, this last song we're going to sing here this morning Behold a broken world. I know it's new to many. So Jeannie's going to play it through one time so we kind of catch on to the tune, and then we'll start singing together, okay? All right.